How are you guys doing? You having fun? Interesting stuff? All right, good. So what I want to do now is take this idea of frame control and focus it on something that's going to allow you to motivate people. Whether it's motivating a sale, getting people excited about an idea, getting them excited about doing something, a behavior, or even to accept new ideas that might otherwise be challenging to them because they are motivated to accept them. Does that make sense? I'll give an example, by the way, of how that works in terms of ideas. When I started off as a hypnotherapist and a coach and so on, my original idea was, because I came from a legal background, I worked for one of the top law firms in the UK, an international firm. And my perception was, if you are the best in your field, clients will come knocking on your door. Then reality set in. When I sat in my office, twiddling my thumbs, going, where are all my clients? And I realized, well, who knows that I exist? And, even though I knew that intellectually, it took me probably the best part of a year or a year and a half, maybe 2 years, to accept that I actually had to do some marketing. I kind of knew it and I did a little bit here and there, but I couldn't accept the idea until, of course, I started having issues paying rent, which motivated me quite highly to find a better way of running my business. So it actually was a business. So running my business wasn't just delivering the service I promised. It was actually getting people to deliver the service too. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? But notice how, I'm not exactly a slow individual. Would that be fair to say? I'm not mentally too challenged. And yet it took me, a year and a half to accept the idea that I have to do marketing. Isn't that weird? And the thing that got me over the hump, of course, is I had a reason to accept that idea. And more importantly, a reason to accept the marketing that works rather than marketing that I thought I should do, which clearly wasn't working very well. So I want to focus today or rather in this session, on ways of getting people to accept ideas or be motivated to accept ideas, to accept behaviors, in other words, to engage in behaviors and do so enthusiastically. Would that be worthwhile to you guys? Would that be something useful to learn? The terrain that we're in, and it still relates to frames, because these are part of the invisible frames that will come into any interaction. It's been called several ways by different people, and people have different categorizations of hierarchies and so on. But essentially what we're talking about is something I like to call, and I'm going to stick to that term, values, or things that are important to people. We are essentially, we're not random creatures. We're goal-oriented, right? I suspect that there's no one in this room who woke up one morning, got an email saying, fancy coming to a seminar, and why not? Who is it? When was it? I don't know, I just signed, off you go. You had a reason for being here, right? And chances are, you had to make sure that what was being offered in the email, in the sales page, matched what you wanted to get. Would that be fair? So notice there's a contrast always occurring. We're always comparing things to our internal goals, and to the extent they get us closer or actually make us achieve those internal goals, we'll be motivated, right? Something that gets us closer to it, maybe a little motivational. Something that actually helps us achieve it or makes us think that we'll achieve it is hugely motivational. Do you see how that works? This is where values come in. Values, really, one way to look at them is what we hope that goals will give us. When someone wants to have a fast car, do they really want to have a lump of metal that just hurtles down the road at high speed? What is it that they're really buying? It might be status, right? It might be the excitement of driving. It might be the sense of power. It might be the freedom, right? One of the classic rites of passage for teenagers in the Western world is that they get their driving license. Why? It represents freedom to a lot of teenagers, especially in North America, where you have a lot of distance between things, right? In Europe, at least, you can walk around places and hop on a bus or something, and it's like a 5-minute journey. It's really not possible in most American cities or North American cities. So having a car is huge freedom. See how it works? So then the motivations to getting a license, again, is huge, provided that they want that freedom. Of course, if they're afraid of the outside world, or they're all comfortable and they want to stay at home and never leave and so on, is there any motivation to drive that car or get that license? Do you see how that works? If they have a private chauffeur, like mummy and daddy will come and pick them up anytime they want to or drop them off every time they want to, is there any motivation to get a license then? So do you see how if we can find people's true goals, the values behind the goals, well then we know how to motivate them. Because all you have to do, it becomes a very simple equation, is make sure that whatever you're offering, the idea, the service, the product, gets married up with whatever that feeling is, that value, that goal. And when the two come together, well then, by getting that car, they'll get the freedom. By getting that car, they'll get that thrill. By getting that car, they'll get that status that they are looking for. Does that make sense? So values really have to have a strong emotional component, or they are not values. Right? I could ask each one of you, what's important about life, people, and so on, and you might get socially polite responses like, oh, it's important to treat people well, and this and the other, right? And somewhere on that list, you might actually throw something out that is actually important to you, and that they just leave you alone when you ask for it. Can you see a little bit more emotion coming in there? So what I want to do now is just see how we can explore people's values, find them, and find which ones are worth working with. Now, I'm going to give you a little caveat before we begin. Human beings are state-based. That means that when your state changes, your values will change. Let me give you an example. Do you think it's acceptable to hit other people, just pummel them in the face? No? Okay, someone is about to harm your children, loved ones, someone close to your family. Is that acceptable? Right? So by changing the context, we change what is acceptable, what is important at that point. If someone is feeling calm and comfortable and so on, life's going well and they're living in a decent part of the world and so on, you try and sell them an alarm system. Do they need it? Do they want it? They live in a neighborhood where their doors get unlocked. Half the time they're left open, no one steals anything. They're the neighbors. They feel safe. Now the same person, the same neighborhood, goes somewhere else, maybe gets attacked there. Now they feel insecure, they feel unsafe. Will they leave their door open? No. Are they more likely to buy a burglar alarm? Yes, with a panic button. But they're still in the same place, the same neighborhood, the same context. What's changed is them. Now that they feel insecure, safety or security goes up in their goal system, in their needs, in their value, in their estimation. And so they'll start buying things that aren't necessarily even necessary because it's satisfying an internal need for safety, for comfort, and so on. Does that make sense? And this will happen across context. So it's important that you know this because you might be able to find someone's values out, but if they switch, go to a different emotional state, you'll have to do the work again just to check that there is something else that might come out there too. Make sense? So don't think of these things as absolute. They're close enough to being absolute in terms of that context, that setting, that state. But there'll be variations that go with it. So how can you find people's values? It's very simple. Can I have someone volunteer? Just anyone will do. Yeah? Do you want to come up, Ralph? Just give him a nice round of applause. Let's put you over here. Let's put you over here, Ralph, just so you can use the microphone and people can hear you too.
Over here.
Yeah, just they can use the microphone.